Welcome to Thought Experiment Called Life. This is where unconventional thinkers and multi-passionate makers share their journey of creating meaningful lives, built on growth, creativity, and the courage to live on their own terms. I'm Greta, a musician, a martial artist, an herbalist, and a fellow traveler through this mystery we call life. Every other Tuesday, I bring you real conversations with rule breakers and path forgers. Subscribe on Substack for more resources, mindset, tools, and more. Hello, friends. I wanted to talk about joy today. It's something that has been on my mind so much. I definitely struggle with, wanting to feel like it's okay to feel joy when there's so many terrible things happening in the world. And I was talking to my therapist about it the other day, of course. And, I think for me, if you've been here for a little bit, you know the kind of my feelings on things are to, as Jack Kornfield says, tend to the part of the garden that you can touch. So being really active in your community and helping the people around you. And then I believe those things ripple out tremendously. And then, participate on a more global scale as best you can. I will say for me, it feels very much like it's, out of I can't touch that garden that well. And doesn't mean I won't still try. But I think that we're inundated with so much information, so many bad things that are happening and not balanced out with the joy of the world. And, really, joy doesn't exist if we don't have it in our lives. And us keeping joy alive in our lives keeps joy alive for others. And that's really kind of the whole point of what I'm talking about today. I think that it's important to be able to be a voice for others and act on behalf of them if they're not able to do it. And I know, again, for me, I think that this is at least somewhat universal for people, where it's, I know I have a hard time feeling like I can feel joyful when I know that others are not experiencing it. And so I've thought a lot about this, and that's really kind of where I came to, is that, yes, it's hard to do it, but it's essential to do it. It's essential to feel our joy, to soak up our joy, to promote our joy, to share our joy, to encourage others to also do the same things. We keep it alive when we do that. And joy isn't necessarily like happiness, right? There's I think Viktor Frankl had some quotes on it. But essentially, happiness is more dependent on something happening. But joy is a different thing. Joy is like an energy that makes life feel like it makes sense, at least for me. It has a purpose. Joy feels like my life has a purpose in a very beautiful, transcendent way. That's how it feels to me when I feel joy. And it's not dependent on something happening, good or bad. Of course, those things are very helpful, You want to really soak up that joy that comes with the happiness, but I think, the many years that I spent just really soul searching and in a situation that I didn't really see my way out of, I felt very much like I was just stuck in kind of like a prison of sorts, not to be super dramatic about it, but, it felt like I didn't really have a path forward. And I've talked about this before, but, I did really listen to Viktor Frankl's work in terms of being able to find my peace, find my joy, regardless of what was happening, really soak into the meaning of the moments. And for me, so much of that came by being in nature. I had already grown up, really being encouraged to have a relationship with nature by my family and by a lot of the activities I was interested in. It really developed that relationship. But it really wasn't until I really didn't feel like I had any kind of path forward that I really spent a lot of time in nature. And I would just kind of walk the same land over and over again. And it taught me a lot about my intuition, and it taught me a lot about joy. So, I do find joy in very small things, I'm sure, to most people, but it helped me so much be able to bolster my spirit, be able to bolster my opinion about myself and opinion about, what I was going to do moving forward if I did have a chance to kind of start over. And my intuition, being in nature, when you walk in nature and you're able to just kind of let's say the land that I used to walk on, it was just a park. It had several fields and a few little wooded paths. So you could kind of connect to everything no matter what, you sort of, everything just kind of meandered together. And it wasn't very big, but I would just kind of go all right, where do I need to walk today? And show me that I walked on the right path. And it was one of the most transformative ways for me to listen, because I was quiet. Please don't have headphones on when you're in the woods by yourself. Please, please, please. And I definitely didn't do that. So it was quiet, just listening to things and noticing I find a lot of joy in noticing things, just noticing, the bugs, noticing the water on a leaf and noticing the little mushrooms that are growing. And because of doing that, it really helped as I was walking and going like, okay, which path should I take? And I just kind of got a feeling, like go this way, and I would go that way, and then I would find something that I would be really excited about, which is usually a feather or several feathers, and I would get very, very excited. And it was like, yes, this way, little breadcrumbs, like, yes, this way. And it taught me how to go back into that space when I wasn't in the woods, but just in regular life, and go like, okay, which path should I take? Which direction is the next step? And just kind of letting the feeling come over. So these are just some things that, definitely helped transform my life 100% just by practicing walking in the woods. And you can practice this wherever you can get quiet, and just kind of like, there's such power to walking meditation. So even if you're just going on a walk and you don't have to have too much, I don't know, if you're in a more urban area or something where you're not going to see people and be like, hi, and stop you all the time, but something where you can just really get into that walking meditation space. But, when it comes to joy, again, I think it exists if we have it. We have to keep that alive for others so that they can have it too. It is the ultimate purpose, I guess, It is our ultimate gift to each other. And I'll just tell you, so I was talking to my therapist about this, and as you may know, I just got married, and I was very joyful, very happy, and it was a joyful day. And I kept thinking about, why was it such a joyful day? Besides obviously getting married, it was like there was a energy though. There was like a different energy, and I was exhausted. I slept terribly the night before, so I didn't feel very good either. I had a headache, and both Matt and I were just kind of so excited, but also just oh my God, that was a rough night of sleep. And despite that, we just had the best time, and it really was a moment where we just lived the day moment by moment and just were joyful in each moment. And sure, it's easy to say okay, that was your wedding day, and of course you're going to be, maybe, I don't know, it could be really stressful too for some. So I was very, very grateful that we stayed in that space, because I am fully aware that sometimes those days cannot be like that. But I kept thinking about it, and I was I want to just keep that joy glow going, with other parts of my life where I can still have that. It was a very open kind of feeling. I mean, I think as being somebody who's self-employed and, has a bunch of different things, that I'm a multi-passionate, multi-creative person, I'm constantly doing math of time and things that need to get done and da-da-da-da-da. So I'm just doing that a lot. Throw ADHD in the mix, and then you have, a lot of just cerebral things happening. And the day was not that. I was I had already done all the planning. Pretty much any question anybody asked me after a certain point, I was I don't know, it's fine, figure it out. I'm going to just enjoy myself. So enjoy, and that's not possible in all days, for sure. Since then, I've for sure been, multitasking and multi-passionate, creative to-do lists, but I keep reflecting back to that feeling where it was just an open feeling, a really open-hearted feeling, just to be in the moment. And so if there's something that, either it's a family vacation or just a really great day, we take little day trips into the mountains and get breakfast at, some little food truck kind of place or whatever, bring our coffee and just soak up all the nature. Again, obviously I'm huge on the nature portion, but that kind of it goes with the creative sort of thing. The creative path is a very open-minded kind of path. It's a very open, expansive way of approaching things, at least for me. So for me with the creative path, I don't really have any set determination of what things need to be, except for if I'm writing a song, I know it needs to be, or I'm trying to write a pop song or a dark pop song or a trailer or whatever, right? So I have the genre down, but besides that, I don't know anything else. I'm going to let my intuition guide me and the happy accidents along the way, and let it just be really open and expansive. But that kind of energy to it, that kind of vibe, that kind of mindset really does translate beautifully to joy as you elevate it, as you get excited about that, as you realize that those moments, the little moments, and this is really what occurred to me back when I was in my old life, basically, is that I would find joy in very, very small things because they were the biggest, they were huge to me. They gave this like kind of wink from the universe, and it let me know I was on the right path. I wasn't alone. I was very loved, and that I could rest and just be is kind of how I feel about it. So as I'm talking to my therapist about, having a hard time with this, because basically, we got married and a week later found out that somebody who's part of our gym, he died. And it was so sad, like I didn't know him well, but he's it doesn't even matter. It's just the fact that, he has a 2-month-old and is newly married, and I'm sitting here going, how can I feel joyful when I know that they are devastated, And it's like, that's the point, that I should feel even more joyful because you have this gift right now, right? Like, if you are in a stage of your life or in a season of your life where those things aren't happening, to be able to feel your joy as an honoring of those who are not feeling that way at that time, as a torchbearer to keep it alive, because we all go through things in life, right? Like, life is full contact sport is how I always say it. And we need others to hold that torch for us as well. So it just kind of, for me, it really, obviously, absolutely broke my heart, and reminded me how precious life is, and reminded me how precious every moment I can soak up joy is, and to really appreciate the people around you, the ones you love, and your home, and the land, and all of the things that are life fulfilling, life affirming around you, to really soak up that joy, like really soak up that joy, like really feel every bit of that gift. And I think gratitude, we've talked about gratitude in our culture forever. I have a hard time, people say gratitude, and like to get into that space, it's sometimes the word I've heard it so much, it kind of like just whoosh. So joy has been a little bit easier. I love the glimmers too. Glimmers, right? There was this post on Instagram, and it was something about how it was like, my friend said to make a little note section, and it says, good things are happening to me all the time. And then you just write down in your notes the good things that are happening to you all the time. And I've been doing that, and I really like that. So that's been like a nice way to kind of just incorporate the quote unquote mundane moments, right? I think the mundane moments hold so much magic if we look at it the right way, which is the joy, So, talking to my therapist about it, we went through a whole thing. Of course, I went, it was like, I started with like, it was wonderful. And I was like, really joyful. And I talked about some other things, and we came kind of circle back to this. And she said to me that, my joy in talking to her about the wedding, and I know, again, I feel like it's silly, like the wedding, I know weddings can be, it's an easy, but whatever. My joy in talking about the wedding lifted her spirits. Like, she was like, I felt that. I felt it, and I needed that today. And I didn't even know I needed that. Like, thank you. And to me, this is, again, why, like, I always talk about sharing our stories and to be the torchbearer for others. And that, it really hit home to me because I have felt so much guilt about, like, feeling joyful after just finding out that our gym member died, and I didn't know how to, like, kind of hold both of those poses at the same time. And your joy does lift others. Your joy is important. It's important to keep that alive. It's important to lift the spirits. And it's not something that erases anyone else's feelings, right? It is an energy that we need. It is a sacred energy, dare I say. It is a sacred energy. It is part of us. I think it is what gives life meaning. And it doesn't need to be dependent on something happening. It really is dependent on us soaking in our experience of life, appreciating the billions of miracles that are happening around us at all times, and expressing love and expressing that joy to yourself, to your loved ones. Find the ways that resonates with you the most. But I just felt like I wanted to share this today because I think I imagine if I'm feeling a certain way that there's at least, let's just say, 10 other people who might be feeling that way, right? It's probably lowballing it, but, I imagine if I'm feeling like I would feel so much guilt about feeling joyful or feeling joyful when I'm just seeing the horrors of the world, And I do try to repost good news things, not to be like, don't pay attention to the horrors, only look at the good things. I think that, for sure we can try to bypass bad things with our toxic positivity or whatever. But you know what? It's really important that we have positivity. It's really important that we are light bearers. It's really important that we continue to speak for joy and hold the container for joy for ourselves and for others. It is vital at this point, in my very humble opinion. So if there's something that you are feeling joyful about, however you want to memorialize that, however you want to reflect on that and soak that in, my camera roll is basically my journal. It's my photos of everything that make me feel something, and mostly cats and joy. So, there's plenty of meditations. I always recommend doing guided meditations. My sister has an incredible channel on YouTube and on TikTok where she does like 2 to 5 minute guided meditations. It might be like 1 to 5 minute guided meditations. And they're real short. And I think that those are really, like, something like that is really, really important, or is really, really helpful, I should say. It's a really great tool where you can just kind of dip in for a minute and connect with the things that lift your spirit, that keep you connected to something greater, around you. And of course, tending to our community, tending to the people who don't have a voice is always going to be paramount. But you also will be leading the way with your joy. So I hope this resonates. I hope this translates well. It's definitely something, as you, I'm sure, can tell. This is a process for sure. I'm going to continue to come back to this. There's some books that I just became aware of that are talking about joy, and I want to keep talking about it. I want to hear about the things that bring you joy. I want to hear about how you feel about this, I guess, how you relate to this, what comes up for you as well. I think all of our stories are so helpful and important. It's so important to pass those things along for others and to be a voice. So I think there are 2 quotes that I wanted to. Oh, yes, Martha Beck. All right, I'll just end with this. I love Martha Beck. I love her spirit. I love her outlook. I was listening to one of her podcasts on joy, and I love that she talks about it a lot. There was one called Microdosing Joy, which I thought was pretty cool. And I think it was from this one. She said, happiness is attached to things being a certain way. Joy is the bliss of being, and it transcends the highs and the lows. And I couldn't agree with that more. And then there was another quote. I think I wrote this down kind of weird, but it's having the stubbornness to accept your gladness in the ruthless furnace of this world. So I like having the stubbornness. I like that idea of being stubbornly joyful. Be stubbornly joyful. Like, do not let your grasp go on that. Hold on to that joy. You are keeping it alive. And I think that one way to do that as well is, like, I'm really big on having altar spaces, otherwise known as shelves with lots of things on them that bring me a lot of joy and remind me of the love and connection and my intention and all of that. So one altar space has a collection of things that I have. Actually, I have 2 altar spaces, and one's in the studio and then one's like out in our living room area. And really, it's an honoring to all the things that have touched my heart, either things that people have given me or things I found, things that I have like from childhood. Sometimes it just helps me remember to like have my lunchbox on my studio bookshelf, Cabbage Patch Kids lunchbox. And that, reminds me of little me and to keep, being stubbornly joyful for her. And then I have, flowers and gifts that have been given and feathers I found and things I've collected along my life. And, there's a way to create a space where when you walk by it and you just remember all the love, you remember all the joy, you remember everything that has touched your heart and where you've been and where you're going. And something like that also might be something that you might want to do if you don't already do it. Again, it's a altar space or a shelf. So however that resonates with you, somewhere where you can, lovingly put your heart. And I recommend little tea lights if you can. Always having a little candle around is great. So I hope that this has touched your heart in some kind of way. I hope that this has reminded you that whatever it is that you're wanting to feel joy about, maybe just being a little reluctant because you don't want to be rude or mean to anybody who's not feeling that way. I understand that. But know that you are actually helping people. You're actually helping everybody by keeping it alive because it's alive in you. So thank you so much for being here. I hope that you are finding something that is touching your heart. I'm on Substack as well. It's basically my mailing list. And also I will do some extras there. So I'll be making fire cider and elderberry syrup and thyme-infused honey and some other things. So if you want to see those and keep in touch there, that's usually the best way to keep in touch. And please like and subscribe and share with whoever you think might benefit from this. Thank you for being here.